Welcome back. Today, I am with a fellow writer, cybersecurity and tech writer, Jordan Snapper. He's worked with companies such as Cato, Checkpoint, and other significant tech and cybersecurity companies. At the same time, he also manages the online content marketing community, the Content Corner on WhatsApp. If you look at it, you'll find it pretty quickly, which has hundreds of active participants. I'm part of the group as well, and I'm a big fan of it. He also claims, and I don't back this up myself, to be able to tell you more stats about a data breach than IBM. Jordan, welcome. And I do hope someone takes you up on that. To be honest, let's record it if they
Listen,
do.
if they do, I'll be happy to spit out a bunch of quick stats. I do it all day long. I love to write with data. I'm very big on that. First, thank you so much for having me on the show. Thanks so
Of
much
course.
for the awesome intro, and I'm happy to get started.
Cool. I'm pretty excited because we make our bread and butter from writing for cybersecurity at the same time. So, how do you describe what you do?
Very simple. I write all different types of cybersecurity content, ranging anything from AppSec to SIEM to firewalls, VPN, and lots of buzzwords, which we'll get to in a second. But it's really about telling a story at the end of the day, right? You obviously have to have a little technical background, some product knowledge, so you're able to go, in depth. But you also have to tell a story. Otherwise, it's just going to fall flat. And where does the story start? The first sentence, right? Because that's the hook.
Mm.
And typically I find the intro, which I'll have to tell your audience is stuff that I hate. And I'm sure that cyber buyers hate
In
as
this
well.
ever, sorry, wait, in this ever evolving cybersecurity landscape,
Thank you
right?
so much.
In a
Yeah.
world,
It's not only ever evolving, it's dynamically ever evolving.
of
It's a
course.
landscape.
All right. Like, what's the pain? Because it's not, when we say pain, it's not like, um, at least many times what we're dealing with, it's not a pain as in a company is bleeding money, right? The
Right.
kind of pain that we're speaking about is a significant inconvenience. Everything in the cybersecurity
Yeah.
world could be done manually. The
Yeah.
scale is impossible. You may have to hire an extra 2,000 analysts. It's all possible. So here's why I get curious because people come, whether it's an analyst or anyone else in the industry,
Yeah.
people in the world of cybersecurity didn't necessarily study security and then come into
Right.
it, right? Everyone has their own path of how they came to cybersecurity. So can you tell us a bit about yours? Like, how did you get into cyber and what keeps you in cyber?
A great question. I actually stumbled on it just by sheer coincidence. I was in the job market, like many others. It was right around COVID time. So I actually have a nice story for you. I was funny enough, this was my first into cyber. It was a company that does breach and attack simulation, which is a very interesting sector of cyber. I was at this place for about a few months, and then something called COVID hit. And then unfortunately, since I was one of the new hires and I was brand new, it was just part of the process over there. But through that time, I was in the job search like everybody else, and it was very tough. It was a very tough market. In fact, tougher than
Sure.
where we are today. So I went out one day with my wife. She wanted to cheer me up, and we said, okay, let's go to this like lychee picking farm. And for those in the audience who don't know what it is, they're really delicious. It took me actually to come to Israel to like them and appreciate them. I'm from New York originally, and we don't really eat them much over there, but they're very good,
We don't really
especially
eat that much fruit in New York, unless it's apples. We could pick apples. Besides for
apples.
that,
Yeah. Lots of apples and grapes. I did that. I went with her to the farm and I said, maybe we can come back and sell something and sell it. So long story short, I sold a kilo. Next week I came back, I sold 40 kilos. From there, we actually developed a gift business and which my wife still does occasionally, where she also offers custom engraved boards, designs. We do birthdays, everything like that. From there, I said to myself, which was great, and we're very happy and blessed that we were busy at the time, but I said, I want to go back into the tech world. And I was just, again, I sent my CV like everyone else. And funny enough, I got an offer by a company that did something totally different. And I was about to sign with them. I had a feeling I was going there. And then a company called Perimeter 81 phoned me the same morning, about 20 minutes after I got the contract. And they said, yeah, we want to go bring you on board. And at the beginning, I was actually reluctant. I said, I'm not the guy. I don't know anything really about cyber, but that's something else I want to tell your audience is you can learn this as you go along. Well, and you should always upskill yourself. Courses, books, TED Talks, and speak to people. Read as many guides as you can and really educate yourself. I would say that's the most important thing. And that's how I got started at Perimeter 81. And it was an amazing experience, an amazing time, amazing team. And as they were bought by Checkpoint, they reached the unicorn status. And it was just a really amazing experience. And from there, that's when I said to myself, okay, I found the direction. I love cybersecurity. Plus, there's so many different areas of cybersecurity that, you know, limitless.
Yeah, and the game, the battle we're fighting, the back and forth that we're a part of, whatever the evolving threat landscape, whatever you want to call it, it
Very
really is.
dynamic.
It's very dynamic. While the message is the same, when you still have a good versus evil kind of story in the background everywhere. And each company, I always find it. I grew up in New York, but I never really cared much about basketball. I feel like
Just
I'm
like me.
supposed to. And so I was watching a game when I was older. It was the playoffs. And my friends want to watch a game. And I was like, honestly, I'm not so into it. And he said, you don't have to be into the sport to enjoy it. When it comes to the playoffs, the finals of anything, to watch someone who is a master of their craft, no matter what it is just impressive on its own, whether it's basketball. I spent many years working in menswear, and I would watch a master tailor and the way he did work. And so when it comes to cyber, if you have a tiny curiosity about it, there is so much information and there are so many there are best practices, but there are so many different approaches to how to solve this challenge that I
Yeah.
just find it's rich with it's a curious person's playground. Like at least that for me is so much about how I got into it is the more questions you ask, the more you learn, the more intelligent you sound. And then it just keeps going and to the point that you say, okay, I'm just like an everyday guy. Maybe it let me try to say it, right? Instead of the technical person, let me try to say this whole thing. And if you what about your unique perspective or what about your role? And maybe we touched upon it, maybe it's something else. Would surprise other people in the industry?
That I have to spend a lot of the time telling CEOs to stop being in love with what they build. It's more like I get all of that technology and everything behind it, but it's more of how are you going to solve my pain points and problems today? And if you can sum that up with either a couple of bullets or one sentence, and I always tell them, what is your USP, right? How many companies out there offer cloud security? Few
Too.
that you've heard of, or like the big name. But
Yeah, that I've heard of.
so there's lots in the sphere, and people I think have to go find ways, unique ways to go and to distinguish themselves. And whether it's by products, which of course the product should really sell themselves, and have to start doing all the best practices, the keyword research, do the audits, do all of it. Because at the end of
Mhm,
the day, as content writers, twofold it works, right? The company has to rank on the pages for specific keywords and search terms, and you want to see your work there as well. Because that's the best way of saying social proof, right? Someone asks, okay, who wrote this article? Rafi did. I did. Here it is. And it ranks really well. And they can see for themselves that you're the one.
mhm.
That you're the one who put the time, the research, your unique tone, your humor into it, which is something I stress to them a lot because CISOs and cyber people like humor too. There's lots of memes and lots of interesting things over there. So
Wait, they're people
yeah,
too?
they are. That
Oh, how about that?
I know. I know it's hard to believe that they're not looking for the next cutting edge, robust buzzword, but or in today's terms, anything that ends with SPM, anything that you can throw a security posture management to SPM, just
Of course.
insert the first letter.
No, I feel for CISOs because it's so hard to
Yeah,
sift through everything that's out there because the
that's
people you're
it.
speaking with, for every company I've ever worked
Yep.
with, both in the cyber world and just a bit of the
Yeah.
AI world, tech world, they all have very good ideas with science behind it. And it's very hard when you're in those meetings with startups to know which one of these is going to be around for a long time. And I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah.
remember when. And which one of these are going to go bankrupt on me the same day I get a ransomware attack, right? Or whatever it is. And if okay, so
One
if
thing,
you could
sorry, one
change
thing else
yeah,
I'll
please.
add there after. You also touched on quotes. So I'm also active on LinkedIn. I do a lot of content. That's also part of what I do, social media strategies and LinkedIn growth strategies, and most certainly in cybersecurity. And one thing that I can tell you is I wrote a post on quotes, is that people usually, I don't think they really understand the benefit and value of a strong quote. And by that meaning is that you can obviously quote Steve Jobs or Walt Disney all day long, but it's not going to do anything to really push your messaging out further. Whereas opposed, you could go into, let's say, podcasts and YouTube webinars. You can use transcripts if you're short on time and just wrap a pair of quotation marks around something that's really deep, data-driven deep insights. That person, whether it's a CISO or a security architect, a DevOps lead, it doesn't matter. It's coming directly from them. And the value is there. And it works twofold because once you use their quote, you can tag them and it shows that you've taken the time to just listen to what they had to say, that you're genuine. Plus, you already start building a very nice relationship. And really, that's it. That's at the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? Building emotional,
Sure.
genuine relationships.
To put a human again, the everyone's very data driven
Yeah.
when it comes to cybersecurity. You want
Yeah.
ROI. You want to know,
Yeah.
is this worth
And
it? What would you say to other people, both within the cybersecurity world and outside of it, that regarding how they think of cyber?
two words, trust and transparency. They have to be able to trust you and you have to be transparent with them. Now, what that means is in terms of pricing, what that means is various pricing models and what you offer and what you don't offer also, because an email security company is not really going to be focused on, let's say, a SIEM product, right? Or SIEM systems. And if they say they do, or if they say that they're unified and they offer partial coverage, then there's misleading buyers. And I feel that's not really a good start there. And for organizations, every single organization, regardless of the scope, sector, or anything else, everyone needs cybersecurity because at the end of the day, you want to keep
Sure.
data and privacy private, right? You don't want credentials and passwords floating around on the dark web or on various dark web marketplaces. And the worst thing is, unless you have a good scanning tool, either whether it's a dark web monitor or something like that, you won't even know about these things
Hmm.
until unfortunately a data breach happens or compromise happens. And typically it's from things that you really can't even imagine. And it starts really from the top down in terms of education. And that's something I think you and I share as well in terms of creating content and value. I focus on one word, right? Education, educating the buyers, educating the audience, right? It's not just that it's zero trust, right? Because what exactly is zero trust? But if you're going into it and saying, "Okay, we're going to be doing what's called least privilege access, and we're going to be limiting who's going to be able to go and see which files, who's going to get access, what third parties can come here or go there. What happens if you automatically have end the contract with a third party service provider and they still have access to the corporate.
Sure.
So when you phrase things like that, it pushes the pain points and the use cases even further without using scare tactics and tell them, look, you need to be using higher levels of access control and security controls. This is why. A team of
Hmm.
working, for example, BYOD, which are all the remote devices, another nightmare for any IT manager. And for larger organizations, a CISO might have to unfortunately step in. And it sounds very simple, but if you think about it, he doesn't have exactly 50 or maybe 100 different endpoints to go and secure. There's more
Sure.
because there's new users and new identities continuously being added into the network, and from third parties, from people that they might not even know still have access to repo code and let's say GitHub. That's another big issue.
Yeah, it's a new world in terms of like again, it's the one of the benefits going back to Corona, which you mentioned. One of the benefits is our ability to connect remotely, and even more than that, I would say one of the benefits of being able to connect remotely is that more can go through, more can be funneled through specific tools to make sure there's no anomalous or suspicious behavior. But at the
Yeah,
same time, that could be a double-edged sword in that if you don't manage that and upkeep it and review logs
yeah,
and make sure that things are being viewed properly, then all the security is for nothing if you're just inviting people in or
yeah,
not kicking them out when they're not supposed to be there anymore. All right,
yeah.
that's all the time, Jordan, that we have today.
Right.
What is the best way to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn, you can look me up. I'm Jordan Snapper. I'm the only one with that name. And if you're a marketer,
And keep it that way. If your name's
I
Jordan
like to keep
Snapper,
things
do not
simple.
join LinkedIn.
I like to keep things simple. So you can definitely can feel free to add me there. If you're a marketer, please by all means send me a message on LinkedIn and let me know. I'll be happy to add you to the private WhatsApp content corner group. And yeah, that's basically me. I think cybersecurity is not something that's going to be going away. It's something that's going to continually get better and
Sure.
a lot more advanced. And the writing will definitely get better. And it's just on us at the end of the day.
Awesome. It's an exciting space. I agree.
Yeah.
Jordan, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll
Thank you.
speak soon.
Awesome. Appreciate it.